What's going on, everyone? So I'm super excited today because today looks like officially starts daily spoiler season. Now, I guess technically we got a couple daily spoilers last week, but it's Monday, it's Labor Day as of recording this video, and I'll be posting this today. And we got our first card of the week, which I wanted to talk about a little bit, but also talk about spoiler season in general. What I will do is kind of based on what I hear from your comments down below on what I should be doing with these spoiler videos, because, well, we'll be talking about that with the new one card that we have today. But I figured this deserved its own video because this card is so cool that it makes me even more excited for set 3 than I was before, and we already saw some pretty sweet ones. So let's just dive straight in and talk about Shaak today. Big thank you real quick to my patrons over on Patreon. Thanks for chatting and sticking with me in the Discord, and also use my TCG player link in the description down below if you want to pick up any of these set 3 cards when they do come out. Shaak. This card perfectly exemplifies what I was looking for with the token creation heroism mechanic that we're looking at for set 3. This is a 4 resource 3/4 in command heroism. It is a Force Jedi Republic tag unit. By the way, love the art, love the clone troopers in the art, love Shaak. Super sweet. She has an ability to give every friendly token +1/+0, which is already pretty strong. And on attack, she creates a clone trooper token. So this is really exciting because we have not really seen anything like this where tokens didn't even exist before besides the shield tokens and the experience tokens, right? That's the only type of tokens that existed before. However, with the clone trooper tokens and the battle droid tokens, I was expecting cards to be able to create a bunch of tokens. And well, Shaak is kind of one of the first examples of a recurring way to get clone trooper tokens. And I am extremely excited about this card. There's so many reasons why. Now, first off, stat line 3/4, kind of a mediocre stat line. If you're looking at a 4 resource play, you really want a 4/4 stat line. So this is actually not going to be able to go ahead and trade with other 4/4s. So I'm not 100% sure if this is going to be an amazingly playable card in terms of just the stat line itself. It really depends on kind of what you're able to do with the passive ability and the on attack trigger. But what does excite me about the card, even though the stat line is pretty mediocre, is the fact that we're able to recurringly be able to create clone trooper tokens. That is extremely exciting to me. Of course, coordinate and all these mechanics here, they are all based around of having a wide board, and we need ways to make a wide board, and this is a way to make a wide board. It also works with ambush, so if you ever ambush out Shaak, you're going to get a clone trooper token, which could potentially be really nice if your opponent plays, I don't know, some lower statted unit because they're trying to develop tokens themselves. Maybe this stat line of a 3/4 is actually not going to be that big of a downside because your opponent's also trying to generate a bunch of tokens. We'll have to see. It's a very interesting mechanic, and this perfectly starts to kind of describe what set 3 is going to be about. We have, for at least the first 2 sets, a very straightforward curve out. And what I mean by curve out is playing something on every single turn and hit your opponent's base, or try to flood the board with units to overwhelm your opponent, or try to control your opponent and finish off with big units. That's kind of the 3 main strategies that we've had. And in this version, it's definitely the flood the board type strategy, but in a way that we haven't had before, where instead of flooding the board by playing cards in your hand, you're flooding the board by creating your big units and then a bunch of little tiny units to back them up. And this really, if it is a solid way to kind of build a deck, change the course of where the meta will be. If you look at set 1 and set 2 cards, they kind of do the same things. Like, they're trying to do the same things. You look at bounties, you look at smuggle. Smuggle just gives you another option to play things from your resource pile. So nothing too crazy in terms of strategy, right? Because everyone likes more options in the resource pile. And if you look at, well, bounties, well, you're trying to just trade with opponent's units. And most mid-range decks that are trying to curve out oftentimes do that. So none of those were like extremely unique in a certain way. This, by sacrificing units, getting out big units with exploit, and by building bigger boards, this could change how we evaluate cards. And that's why I wanted to kind of spend a little bit more time on Shaak here. And that is because, well, even though it has a 3/4 stat line, and it's a 4-costed unit. We have some interesting tags here because Force, Republic, and Jedi all could be relevant. Force is already relevant, right? The pump effect to all the friendly tokens could be massive, and the ability to generate additional Clone Trooper tokens could also be massive to set up for more powerful cards coming through set 3. Same thing goes in terms of stat line as well, right? This stat line could actually be a viable stat line in the meta if your opponent decides that, well, maybe they're playing the meta deck, which is an exploit deck. They're trying to generate a bunch of battle droid tokens, and they're trying to sacrifice them to make bigger units. Well, maybe they don't actually have a way to kill Shaak Ti because her stat line is just too big for the units that you're playing. This is something that we're really going to have to pay attention to, and is really going to shift the mindset of a lot of deck builders and a lot of people that playtest a lot, like myself, after we see more of the set. I've gotten a lot of questions, especially in my patron Discord, asking how I evaluate and what I think about certain set 3 cards. And I always say that if you were to play these cards right now, I am basically 100% certain that they're unplayable. If you look at cards like Rax, or if you look at cards like, what was the other one? Battle Droid Escort, they just don't give you enough. One of the big things is you're going to need, if you want to play like a more wide strategy, abilities to get through big sentinels. You're going to be able to have to get in early damage, and in most cases be able to actually withstand an attack from your opponent's units, so your board doesn't just get wiped out on every single turn that you're trying to attack. And unfortunately for the units that we have right now, they don't really do any of that stuff, right? There are smaller units that generate other value, and that value isn't able to be fully realized because we haven't had set 3 cards. And Shaak Ti is another perfect example of that. If you were to take this card and ask me, hey, are you, or would you put this in like Sabine green, or would you put this in like Han green, or would you put this in Luke green, or whatever it is? And I would tell you, absolutely not. This seems unplayable to me. If you were to ambush it out, not that good, because you can't actually kill a unit most likely, and it'll just die. Obviously, the passive effect of getting +1/+0 to token units isn't relevant right now, but let's assume that was just like +1/+0 for other units, period. Just each other friendly unit gets +1/+0. I still don't think it would even be playable at the current moment, because this stat line is just so poor, and the kind of value of generating tokens, again, isn't realized. So when we look at the rest of the set and when I talk about these cards, I will really heavily lean on all the previous cards that we've evaluated and talked about, because each new one that we see is going to make the other ones better. And this is kind of true with all sets, but especially true when you have a dedicated set all around tokens and you have no other cards in the entirety of Star Wars Unlimited that care about these tokens, because they haven't had them in the game at all up until this point. And again, this is different with Bounty and Smuggle, because you could easily say, oh, well, this one gives a bounty. I could easily kill something and claim that bounty. Like if you look at Bounty Hunter's Quarry from the set 2, and I was evaluating that as a spoiler, I would look at that and be like, oh, it's a 1 resource way to potentially get a 3 resource unit for free from the top of your deck. And if we're able to trade off with the units, that's a really nice card, because it provides you a discount on whatever unit you want to play off the top of your deck, or some of the 3-cost units that you're playing on the top of the deck. It's very straightforward, very easy to kind of see where that could be good. But that's why we really want to see the rest of set 3 in order for us to get the final kind of evaluation on cards like Shaak Ti. Now, that leads me to kind of what I wanted to talk about with spoilers. So as I mentioned, this is kind of like the first indication of spoiler season started. We've had some other spoilers like, Gore in the other day, which was pretty sweet. We also had Plo Koon. So starting with Plo Koon on August 29th, we've kind of had a little bit of daily spoilers, right? So that was, what was that? It's the 2nd, so it was the 1st on Sunday, which means it was the 31st on Saturday. So August 30th was Friday, so this was Thursday of last week. I lost track of my days since, I had my daughter a little bit ago, so I kind of lost track of the days. But this was Thursday of last week, so that's kind of technically when daily spoiler season started, but it looks like we're going to get daily spoilers. So I want to ask you all, do you want to see daily videos from each of the cards? And in some cases, there might be multiple cards. Or, and this is kind of what I was leaning towards, would you like to see kind of a wrap up at the end of each week? Like every Friday, kind of just get a video talking about all the spoilers that we saw during the week? Because that's what I was leaning for. We're going to have most likely 5 to 6 to 7 cards to talk about at the end of the week. and I can kind of evaluate them as one group instead of talking about each one of these individually, which I'll be looking at them for sure. And I might put community posts out about all these cards that you guys can keep updated and stuff. And of course, if you're interested, you could always check out Patreon, Discord down below if you want to join that, because we'll be chatting about those cards as they come out, well, every day. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, everyone. I know this was a shorter video, and I know I kind of talked a lot here, but pretty excited about this stuff. And I mean, set 3 is just going to be super sweet. I can't wait. I'll see you for the next one.